Bill introductions in this committee. Seeing none, we'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 366. Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 366 would designate a bridge on Interstate 135 in Sedgwick County as the Don Snyder Memorial Bridge. This would be the North Flyover Bridge, which is designated as bridge number 0087-B0854. That connects northbound I-135 to southbound I-235 north of Wichita, to be designated as the Don Snyder Memorial Bridge, as is customary with highway signs and bridge commemorations. Highway signs would not be placed until the requirements set forth in statute for all highway signs are met, which would mean that the Secretary of Transportation would have to receive the cost of the signs plus 50%. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions of Adam? Seeing none, thank you. We'll turn to the proponents. If I can get my glasses to work. Michael Longshore.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate it. I got to tell you guys, I am not real familiar with the whole legislative process. When I was, 5 years old, I watched that Schoolhouse Rock thing and saw how a bill becomes a law, and that's pretty much my legislative experience up to this point. So my name's Mike Longshire. I've lived in Kansas for 37 years, Butler County for 26 years, and I worked for the Kansas Department of Transportation for 23 years before I retired back in 2024. Again, I'm trying to advocate for Senate Bill 366, which you just mentioned is going to designate that bridge, the flyover bridge in North Wichita, as the Don Snyder Memorial Bridge. I think you guys all got a copy of the Kansas process and you guys probably know that way better than I do. It's KDOT. They have a cool process where you can get a bridge named after somebody. I think the neat part is that it doesn't involve any Kansas taxes. That I'll take up the cost to manufacture the sign and get it placed, and then 50% just in case it gets knocked down sometime that it gets replaced. I will take care of that. I will get a check to KDOT to pay for that. Also, thank you. Also have a copy of my write-up about Don Snyder. I'm not going to read that to you because you all read better than I do, and it'd be pretty embarrassing. But I will give you kind of a recap of what's in there and explain why I advocate for this situation. Don was raised in Wichita, Kansas. He graduated from Kansas State University with a civil engineering degree. After that, he came to work for the Kansas Department of Transportation as a construction engineer in Wichita. He did that for 4 years before he got his professional engineering license in Kansas, and then got promoted to the district materials engineer in Hutchinson. There he was in charge of making sure that all the materials on the construction projects in those south central 18 counties had quality materials in them. After that, he moved down to Winfield and was in charge. He was the area engineer down there, where he was in charge of the construction and maintenance activities that were done in those 4 counties. So he was out there plowing the snow that we got this last week. After that, he moved up to Wichita and became the metro engineer. Since Wichita is a high traffic area, they have a special designation there where it's a metro engineer, and he's in charge of doing the same operation with the construction and maintenance. But he also had the opportunity to oversee 105 employees and get to deal with all the neat challenges you get to deal with in Wichita. One of the projects that Don was involved with was the Gold Project, which is the project that we just mentioned, building that bridge from northbound 135 to southbound 235. I don't know how many of you guys have been through Wichita about 5 o'clock at night, but that was pretty much I'm not going to use a bad word here. It was congested back forever. I mean, every time you listen to the radio, KFDI, every night at 5 o'clock, the first thing was traffic's backed up at the North Junction, because at North Junction you had 135, 235, and K254 all come together, and you had to take a full loop ramp, and then you get to the top of the ramp, and then you have to merge with 254, and traffic would back all the way down 135, and even down on K96, that would back up that way. This project, in my opinion, was probably the second best congestion clearing project in Wichita in my time frame. When they built the flyover on US 54 was probably a little bit better, but this is the next best thing that's been done. Don was involved from beginning to end of this project. He was involved in the design, involved in the right-of-way acquisition, involved in the construction. Don did a great job. Don retired in 2022 from KDOT. He had 30-plus years experience, and he was gonna go and ride his bike. That's what he wanted to do. He loved riding his bike, and that's what he wanted to do for full time. While he was with KDOT, he was actually named the ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineer, Government Employee of the Year, because he did such a great job working with contractors, consultants, and everybody else. In 2023, KDOT had a little challenge where the field engineer administrator retired, and then 2 construction engineers in Wichita took jobs, got promoted to district construction engineer positions, which was awesome, except for it left us a big void on the construction side. Not a lot of experience. We had some young engineers with not a lot of people on the bench come take their spots. So we asked Don if he would come back and help us mentor those young engineers to keep our busy construction season going. We had $200 million of the work on contract and had probably another $1 billion worth of work in the pipeline, and we needed some help. So we asked Don, hey, could you come back? And he said, yep, I'll come back, but only part-time, and you got to give me the afternoons off so I can go ride my bicycle. That's what he wanted to do. We needed the help, awesome, so he came back to work, and Don did a great job, helped mentor our inexperienced engineers, and helped design some really, really awesome projects. Like I said, I mentioned he loved riding his bike. Don rode bike across Kansas 15-plus times. So on that ride, you start at the Colorado border, you jump on your bicycle, ride the 500 miles across Kansas, and then get to the Missouri line in about a week, and Don did that 15 times. So he was very instrumental in getting the Red Bud Trail built from Wichita all the way to Augusta, and they just put a bridge across the 400 in the last few months that makes that possible. Don was was loved by the biking community, and same thing with KDOT. They loved the job that Don did. In late April of 2023, we're getting ready to open the bridge, the Gold Bridge, and so Don and Tom Hine, who's the public affairs manager, and myself are out on the bridge trying to set up the ribbons cutting ceremony. It was coming the next week. So we decided where the podium was going to be, where we'd have the smart speaking people talk about the bridge, opening it up. And we had where the media was going to sit, had extra chairs for people to enjoy it. And we got it all planned out and looking really, really good. And Don came up and said, hey, can I take tomorrow off? I want to go do a bike race down in Barber County. And I said, absolutely. I mean, we let you come back to help us out, and you're doing a great job. So Friday comes, and I get a call from his wife Friday afternoon, and she tells me that Don had been in an accident on his bicycle and flipped over the handlebars, broke his neck, and passed. Actually, by far my least favorite day of work ever. That said, it was tough to lose a great man like that loved the state of Kansas, would do anything he could for the state of Kansas, but someone had different plans. Don was loved by all KDOT. Even the lowest level engineering technicians and equipment operators, all the way up through Secretary Reed, they all knew Don and knew Don did a great job. He's also loved by the consultants and contractors he worked with. When I thought about getting this bridge named after Don, I talked to the current Metro engineer, Dwayne Flug, who talked to his boss, the district engineer, Nick Squires, who talked to his boss, the director of operations, Ron Hall, and they're all supportive of this process. I want to thank Senator Masterson and his office. Mike Perner did a great job getting me prepared for this. Donald Donola, gave me a call yesterday and set me up to, she could have trained me to speak better, but other than that, she did a great job of getting me going the right direction. I am here to answer any questions you guys might have.
Committee questions. Looks like you did a great job. I was at that ribbon cutting ceremony, and that is a great bridge.
It's awesome, actually. If we get the Goal 2 project done and get done with the railroad stuff, it would be a whole lot better. But once that's done, that's going to be a very nice area to drive through. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Committee note, we have written testimony from Greg Schreiber. Are there any other proponents? Any neutrals? Any opponents? We'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 366. Committee, I intend on working that bill next week. Turn our attention to 367. Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 367 would provide cities in the state of Kansas the authority to allow the driving of golf carts upon sidewalks. Under current law, there's a prohibition against driving upon any sidewalk, driving any vehicle upon any sidewalk or sidewalk area, with the exception of a permanent or duly authorized temporary driveway. The bill would allow the governing body of any city by an ordinance to allow for the driving of a golf cart upon a sidewalk. However, the bill does restrict that such drivers of golf carts be limited to individuals 16 years of age or older, and such individuals would be required to hold a valid Class C driver's license. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions? Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Adam. Could you refresh the committee on what current law is? Isn't it local that decides on this?
You're talking about the use of golf carts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just looking that up. Golf carts are allowed to be used in certain circumstances. Of course, not currently on sidewalks. However, golf carts can be used on roads in the state of Kansas. However, this would be excluded from any interstate, any federal highway, or any state highway. So essentially, county highways are allowed, or county roads are allowed to be, you can use a golf cart. However, they cannot be used in the city limits unless the city authorizes the use. And they can also not be used on any road with a speed posted greater than 30 miles an hour. However, you can use golf carts to cross certain highways that exceed that amount. The hours currently for golf cart use is between sunrise to sunset, unless there are lights or a slow-moving vehicle emblem on the golf cart, so then you can use them at night.
Any further questions? Senator Clem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with that, your last comments, what does this bill allow us to do that you can't already do?
To operate the golf cart on a sidewalk. Because currently you can operate them on streets in limited circumstances. This would allow them to drive upon a sidewalk if the city authorizes the use.
To continue with that line of thought, today a city could decide they could put them on a sidewalk if they wanted to?
No, it would be prohibited.
Thank you. I feel like there's an amendment needed on this that would limit the distance from a mile from a golf course. And it feels like there's some parameters or guardrails around it. Might not be a bad idea. So I do plan to bring an amendment to this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Adam. How in statute do we regulate, if at all, other motorized vehicles on sidewalks? E-bikes, electronic scooters?
Thank you. it does get a little tricky, to be honest with you. Essentially, you're not allowed to, the general rule is you're not allowed to drive motor vehicles on sidewalks. It's kind of the premise, you know. I think we're all aware sometimes things get used. Probably could be cited a lot of the times. It generally revolves around if the item being driven would be considered a motor vehicle under the statute or a toy. It's usually the line that I've learned kind of differentiates between the violation or, you know, if someone's just operating a toy, that's not considered a motor vehicle subject to the restrictions set forth in law.
Because I think, you know, the toys we've seen are, you know, the little Barbie car or something that goes, I think, 2 or 3 miles an hour, and the kids ride it down the sidewalk. Or
I'm just kind of making a broad differentiation.
Sure.
A toy and but you know,
it's broader than what I just said. But
getting motors and becoming more akin to a motor vehicle, and you know, may or may not be able to be cited technically under the law as it currently exists.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when I'm thinking about being on a sidewalk, should it be any sidewalk? I mean, does it matter on like the width of the sidewalk? That'd be one. And then you talked about speed limit. I mean, can they go 30 mile an hour on the sidewalk?
Admittedly, that would be up to the city. It's my understanding this is kind of localized to an area that is adjacent but not necessarily next to a golf course is kind of the impetus for this bill. The city would have to set the regulations of where, when, how the golf course could be used. The state statute would be essentially would essentially allow the city to set those parameters.
Mr. Chairman, one follow-up. And then is there currently anything in statute that, do they have to have, like, if they're on the road, so you can go on the road, or do they have to have insurance on these? Liability or something?
Currently, no. The answer is no, they don't. For golf carts that are operated on public roads that are allowed lawfully, they do not. They're exempt from those requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Argabright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Cluse had one of my questions, the size of the sidewalk, if that's, because some of ours may only be 3 foot. And then an add-on to that on heavy populated walking traffic, a school area, is there anything in current statute that would limit the use of a golf cart in a high populated area, or is that completely up to the city?
That'd be completely up to the city, essentially, because this would just give them the authority to set those parameters, like I said. There'd be, currently, since it's completely banned, operating a golf cart on a sidewalk, we don't have, you know, that says it's further banned, you know, elsewhere. It's just, this would just open up the city to set the parameters of where, when, and how they could be operated.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Adam.
Further questions for Adam? Senator Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apologize if I missed this. How would right-of-way be handled between pedestrians and the carts on sidewalks? I'm thinking about my mom, who's like 76, and yeah, 3 feet sidewalks, and if there's snow on the ground or mud, or if she's walking the dog, that sort of thing.
You know, I honestly don't have a great explanation for how that would, I mean, you know, if they're converging, we don't really have lane dividers or anything like that on a sidewalk, so I agree. It's not really spelled out.
Any further questions? Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I would be along the lines with Senator Klemp. Seems like there's a lot of issues here, but my thoughts.
Further questions for Adam? Seeing none, thank you, Adam. First proponent we have, J.V. Johnson. Councilman Johnson, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Senator Peterson, Chair, and thank you, committee, for inviting me. I never thought I'd be on city council. I never thought I'd be here presenting to you. So 2 new experiences, so I appreciate that. How this came about is in the letter. Senior community, they wanted to get to the clubhouse, and they were on the roads, and the neighbor kept calling the police to come out to get them off the roads, because golf carts in Wichita were illegal on the roads. So we passed an ordinance that made it legal, 30 miles an hour and below on city streets. We thought, that's great. Then found out it's a state law, does not allow golf carts on any sidewalk, anywhere, anytime. And I thought, well, that won't be a problem. Our police have enough sensibility to let people go on golf carts to get to the golf course. Apparently not. Got a call from a man and his wife, 67-year-old wife, was going to Ladies' Day at 10 o'clock in the morning at Auburn Hills. And the police pulled her over because she's driving on a sidewalk to get to the golf course, which is the only way. You have to drive on about 2 or 3 blocks worth of sidewalk to get to the golf course. There's no other way to get there at Auburn Hills from north of Maple. So police, and she wants to be a law-abiding citizen. It really, really shook her up, getting pulled over. They just gave her a warning, but that was the impetus of this. So what we would like is if we could just do a mile range around golf courses, that would accomplish our goal. Definitely not in the core area, to your point, Senator Schmidt. People walking on sidewalks, municipalities could give them the right-of-way over a golf cart. Makes all sense. Definitely not in the core area, not by schools, not in a busy corridor, none of that. This bill is really just to get people to be able to get their golf cart to the golf course. So, any questions?
Committee questions, Senator Cluse.
Thank you for some of that clarity. The width of the sidewalk, what are your thoughts on that?
The sidewalks going to both Auburn Hills and Reflection Ridge, those are 2 that affect my district, are 5 foot. So just wide enough for a golf cart. The idea being that if we did pass an ordinance allowing it in the city, we would definitely give right-of-way to pedestrians. I know Valley Center had an issue looking into this. I learned a lot more about golf carts and sidewalks than I ever wanted to know. Valley Center had an issue where they have a 10-foot wide sidewalk to get to one of their city parks, and that was not allowed per the Attorney General's opinion. So there's been some discussion on widths of sidewalks. In the case, my case, in Auburn Hills and Reflection Ridge, they are 5-foot sidewalks. So,
Senator Clem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you. So I was curious, it sounds like you have a good understanding of how we could craft an amendment to start to hone in on an area around a golf course and also excluding some congested areas that you had mentioned as well. Seems like we should probably understand that so we could get that amendment crafted in a way that addresses kind of a lot of the comments from the senators today, but also hones in on really the need. Really, in most communities, that would be that would have a golf course that would probably have these limitations. So it might be beneficial.
you are correct. Okay. That would be my goal here, not to allow them everywhere all the time, but if we could get them within a mile of golf courses, that would be more than enough to satisfy me and my constituents.
Sounds like with our revisor here, we would have some language that we can craft from an amendment that also touches on the congested areas and excluding those, to Senator Schmidt's point and some of the others. Okay.
I think that would be wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Arterbright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. And if I've missed it, I apologize. Either you can answer or maybe the chair. But this is going to require some signage on where the parameters are at for both vehicles and golf carts. And is the city, if they approve this, responsible for the appropriate signage?
I really didn't envision any signage for this. Just a city ordinance that would allow it or not allow it. And it's not like a common consumption area where there's signage that starts here and stops here. I think a city ordinance could clearly specify a mile parameter around the golf course. That's my view.
Thank you. I'm thinking law enforcement too, you know, how far can a golf cart drift, and from a signage standpoint, I guess I'm trying to think that through. What does that look like? But thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One other concern as I'm thinking this through is, you know, a lot of people spend a lot of time on their lawns, keep them very pristine and keep the lines straight, and worried about thinking about the right-of-way problem. If, you know, the carts pull over onto the lawn, that's going to cause wear and tear, you know, for a lot of people that are spending the time and money to make those very nice looking. So that's another thing as we think about amendments.
I might address that. Where the homes are, at least in these cases, there are no homes on these sidewalks to get to the golf course. It's on major arterials because they can use the street in their neighborhoods, not to get on the people's lawns. So they use the street, they get to the main thoroughfare. They can't go to the main thoroughfare because it's 40 miles an hour and that's not allowed per our ordinance. So they go down the sidewalk. That's where the problem is. Now the workaround, this gentleman's very clever. His workaround was, well, I'm not going to go on the sidewalk. I'm just going to go on the grass. So right now he's driving, instead of on the sidewalk, he's driving on the grass next to the sidewalk, and his wife is too. So that's how they get around the workaround for not being allowed on sidewalks, which I thought was pretty clever.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I haven't been to this location, but I just know, like in Topeka Country Club or 95th and Antioch, both a lot of homes right across the street from the golf course. Where I'm not sure that would apply as we think about the particulars for the amendment to make this work.
I'm not familiar with other locations, so I do play a lot of golf though.
Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to go back to what Senator Argabright was talking about with the signage. So I think a mile away from the golf course is too far, but my other concern is that without signage, other folks will see these individuals riding their golf carts on sidewalks and think, oh, it must be okay now. So that's why the signage sometimes is important, just to make sure that all the general public knows it's restricted to a certain area. So you might want to consider that.
Point.
I see the issue, I do.
Yeah.
I totally understand it, but I do think it has some unintended consequences.
One thing, when we started drafting this ordinance, because everybody was using golf carts anyway, even though they were illegal on any street in Wichita, they were using them anyway, and especially around Reflection Ridge, which is a country club, there were 12, 13, 14-year-old kids riding golf carts, and there might be 5 or 6 kids on the golf cart. And police chief and I got into it a little bit because I said, I want that to stop. And so he did put some patrols out and put some guardrails around that. It's still happening, but hopefully we can have that not happen before there's an accident. So to your point, there's a lot of issues in this.
Any further questions?
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Committee note, we have Anne Marie Yatsuda, Staff Attorney for League of Municipalities, has pro-written. Are there any other proponents? Any opponents? Any neutrals? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on 367. Committee will want to get with Adam. I do intend on working this next week sometime, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you are going to work it. I think a simple solution that the committee might consider is just allowing the locals to make the decision like we do, allowing them on other things. Adam could talk to that, but that's why I asked where we were currently, and that would make it quite simple, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Sounds like there's gonna be a few amendments to put some guardrails on this. Committee, yes, we heard 324, the hands-free bill. I intend to work that next week. Research has come up with, I believe, over 20 states that have laws to regulate the holding of them. None of them have been overturned in the courts. So I'd like to give them a time to put something together, try and get it emailed out, maybe Friday. So you might look for that in your email. That'll give you Monday to work on some amendments or whatever we need to do. Just to know that. I would like to turn our attention to Senate Bill 113, I believe, the 100-mile-an-hour bill. Adam, if you can give us a briefing, you can do it from where you're at.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 113, if you recall, would make it a reckless driving offense if such person operates a motor vehicle at a speed of 100 miles an hour or more, or 35 miles per hour or more over the posted speed limit. With it, the bill also excludes from the mandatory revocation of license those violations. So while it would be considered a reckless driving, it would not be subject to essentially the mandatory revocation of the license.
Any questions for Adam? Committee, in visiting with the policy director of the president's office and the highway patrol, I do have an amendment. What this amendment does is it strikes 100 mile an hour and leaves it all at 35 mile an hour over for consistency throughout. So it would be like 110 on the 75 mile an hour road. I think this might have been the holdup on it. With that, I'll make a motion to offer my amendment. Do I have a second? Seconded by Senator Clem. Any discussion? Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you would have to be going 110 miles an hour before you'd be cited rather than 100? What's the difference? Other than it's 10 miles an hour difference, but I mean,
It's
what is
the
the,
consistency of the 35 all the way through.
it's just a little concerning that 100 miles an hour is still incredibly excessive on the turnpike or on I-70. So I appreciate the consistency, but I worry about the speed. So that's all. Thank you.
Further questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. We're back on the bill. Committee, what's the pleasure of your bill, with the bill? Senator Cleese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just make a motion to pass Senate Bill 113 out as amended.
Favorably?
Yes, favorably. Thank you.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The bill's on its way to the floor. I don't think I had a second on that. Let's restart that. Senator Cleese made the motion. Do we have a second? Senator Warren.
Second.
Thank you. Now, all those in favor of moving it out, favorable for passage, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carried. Now we have one on the way. Sorry about that, committee. Committee, I do plan on working these bills as we get through them. But do you have time? Please watch. I believe there's going to be some amendments that need to be drafted for the golf cart bill. And Jill's going to provide a lot of information for us on the hands-free. Give everybody an opportunity to look about it and think about it if we want to do anything. With that, we are adjourned.